You're listening to REIA Radio, the nationally trusted name in real estate investing. We dig deep to discover investors' why in real estate. If you want to skip all the BS and get in investors' heads, you're in the right spot. Be one of the thousands to check out reactive.com.
The way the average person lives is they wake up, they look at their life, they have a reaction to their job, their partner, their body, whatever. And from that place of reaction, they take a reaction. So basically the reactions are dictating their frequency. What I have figured out how to do is to get people out of that reaction and have them consciously shift their frequency into the future version of themselves that has the result they want.
This episode is brought to you by Magic Door.
Magic Door is the AI-powered property management platform designed to handle everything from the rent cycle to the vacancy and maintenance cycles. During the rent cycle, Magic Door collects rent, sends automatic reminders, deducts management fees, and distributes payments to owners. In the vacancy cycle, Magic Door streamlines listings, tenant applications, seamless multi-language communication, screening tenants, and converting applications into leases with one click. And for the maintenance cycle, Magic Door's AI handles everything, asking tenants key questions, assigning tasks to vendors, and scheduling repairs automatically without you getting involved. With no hidden fees, no onboarding costs, and seamless AI-powered automation, Magic Door takes care of the entire property management lifecycle so you can focus on what matters most.
Welcome to REIA Radio, episode 162, with the coach to the stars, Jason Drees.
Hey guys, how you doing?
He gets really into these. So I noticed you liking several posts of Alex Felice on social media. Have you always had bad character judgment, or isolated?
Apparently I have bad character judgments because I live a few blocks away from him now, actually. So.
Do you really? So you're in Austin?
I'm in Austin, yep.
Nice. Okay. No, I had to we like Alex. He's been on the podcast before here, but you know as well as I do, he gives everybody shit. So he's
the king of shoveling it. Yeah,
that's right. So this is awesome. Ted has been I think working on getting you on for a while. We're really excited. We've had a few of your brethren in the coaching circle on before, so super excited to talk to you today. Ted, you had something I think you wanted to ask him.
Yeah, well, so my son is 11, Carson, and he told me, and it was a proud dad moment for me. He goes, "Hey, hey, Dad." He goes, "I want to go to a concert, but I want my first concert to be a Tool show." And I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes you right. it being a dad that has taken his own son, 11, also 12. To a tour of Tool shows this weekend, or not this weekend, but this summer. Like, any feedback? Like, how did he love it? How did it go? And does he have a favorite, favorite song?
Well, it's it's a sign of good parenting, actually. If your son says that, I would have cried. When I remember when my second son was like 2 years old, 3 years old, we found him in the garage in the car, and he was listening to Led Zeppelin, and I was like,
yes.
He was like,
quietly crying over the corner.
I was like, that was so good, So my oldest son Dash has been to 11 Tool shows in the past 2 years.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So we saw him in San Antonio, and then this was the previous tour, and we're like, do you want to go? And this is back when real estate was good, so business was much better than it is right now.
Right.
So we're like, let's go see him. So we went to go see him in Omaha on Saturday, and then flew to Kansas City on Sunday. Omaha, then Kansas City.
Oh, what? We were at the same show. Obviously.
No, I'm sorry. It was Omaha, then it was Minneapolis, and then we were going home, and we're like, do you want to go home? And he goes, no. I'm like, okay, let's go to Kansas City. So went to Kansas City. Then we did it again, went to Molina, Illinois. And Molina, Illinois, our flight back was delayed 5 hours. And I was like, do you have a rental car? So we drove to St. Louis from there.
Oh my God. You are like the dad of the year, man. What an epic.
And then when they toured again this year, we saw them in Austin, and then Dallas, and then Oklahoma City.
That show here in Omaha, there was 25 of us guys that went.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know Colin Schwartz. He's one of the ones that went with us, and we had a great time. And then I was telling, of course, I was just out of my mind. And when I was there, I'm like, guys, don't you know that the stage keeps on growing? It's like an amoeba. It keeps on going. Like, if you ever go to a Tool show, and the stage literally changes every song.
Yeah,
they add a different lighting system, or something changes. So it's just a really unique experience. I always describe it as like the modern day Pink Floyd.
Yeah, their visual experience is like second to none. It's like a masterpiece. The performance, the production value, the sound quality. And Dash's favorite song, last time I checked, was "The Pot."
Oh yeah, great one.
By the way, I have to give you kudos on the name of you chose for your son. That was my nickname in college because my last name is Dashner. So I was for years and years and years and years. Dash.
Well, you haven't heard all of it. So his name's Dashel Orion. Orion's after, of course, the Metallica song or the constellation. My second son's name is Magnus. My third son's name is Leonidas.
I have a friend with a son named Leonidas also.
And then my fourth son is Ace.
Oh my God! I was gonna. If we had a boy, I have two girls. That was the name. That was the name we chose for my my son if I ever had one, which I didn't. But I'm not kidding. Like, I was like saving that name for either my son or maybe a really cool dog that we got. Then I got outvoted, and we have a dog named Milo.
Hey, you can always adopt, especially since the kids are getting older.
No thanks. Nope, that ship has sailed. So, Jason, have you found in your years of coaching for business and personal, and we'll kind of dig into how you got going in that, but have you found that real estate investors are way more insane than most other entrepreneurs, or is it all about a level playing field?
I think it's pretty level on the level of insanity for all of them, you know?
Now you, this is really cool. So you've got I noticed you had an educational background in civil engineering. What went wrong?
Oh, that was a joke. Yeah. I literally went to Cal Poly for 3 years because they're like, you're good at math and sciences, and my uncles were engineers. So I was there 3 years and was still a freshman when I left, basically.
Okay. That sounds like my college experience.
So walk us through, if you wouldn't mind, like, how did you get into the coaching and personal development space? What was your W-2 or your kind of like career path before you ventured off on your own?
Yeah, well, I first started working at Diamond Bar Golf Course in Southern California. Then it was Cal Poly Pomona. I was working full-time, Circuit City, actually. Remember Circuit City?
Right.
And then when that wasn't work, I dropped out and got a job at Ingram Micro, which is a technology distributor in Southern California. That was a fun job.
I worked for Intercom back in the day. They were a reseller of tech equipment too. Yeah.
Yes, it was fun. I was like so this was right before 96, 97. I was 23, 24. And it was like, they had to start implementing drink ticket limits because too many employees were getting DOIs from all the vendor events. You know? It was like 300 people on the sales floor. It was one big old party. It was so much fun. And then I got some clients who sold a lot of Cisco equipment. I got a Cisco. Then I became a Cisco specialist. I'm actually was a Cisco certified sales engineer. Then I got a job for a tech company, moved to Northern California, and was in tech sales for 10 more years. In 2002, I discovered Tony Robbins and Personal Power, started listening to that. I also read Rich Dad, Poor Dad in 2003. That's when my insanity started. And then in 2008, I was a territory sales manager. I had a territory engineer. He was into auto racing. Somehow we put two and two together and we figured out we could make a better race car driver cooling suit.
What? That's awesome. I remember reading about this. So you put the actual little tubes going in correctly?
I can go grab it if you want to see it.
I do want to see it.
Yeah.
I love racing cars. So are you?
There's a cool shirt, right? When the cool shirt is basically a cotton T-shirt with tubes sewn on it, and they connect it to an ice chest with a bilge pump, right? We made one that had molded Camelback style bladders, and ours used a Peltier thermoelectric cooler that didn't use any ice.
Have we seen this on Shark Tank?
No, we ran out of money. We ran out of money. I raised about $500,000. Ran out of money. We did actually successfully negotiated an IP deal with Momo, the Italian racing company, but they let it flop. So
they're not for sale right now. I couldn't get one if I wanted one.
Well, I have one if you were size small, but yeah,
I'm far from that.
Ted waved bye-bye to that.
Yeah, we were struggling because some of those we had at one point. One of our prototypes was pulling like 50 amps in the car.
It's a lot of power.
We didn't want to tell the car because that's horsepower right there, right?
Yeah. Oh my God!
And it was during that I hired a Tony Robbins coach.
To
help me run that company.
You were trying to get a product launch done, and you needed some help along the way. You kind of figured what better than
I had a little Tony card free intro session mailer card. I called in there. I had this intro call. It was awesome. Then I did that coach from 2010 to 2012, and then in 2012, my coach asked me, "Have you ever thought about becoming a coach?" And when he asked me that question, it was like I got struck by lightning. Like my life changed in that moment. instantly.
Were you already like doing some sort of coaching prior to that?
I had never coached anyone. No, I had hired one coach before.
Yeah.
But it was like, to my dismay of my wife and family over the next year, I couldn't stop. It was obsessed. I was a madman.
Ted, you probably know who I'm talking about, but we have a good friend that he is so immersed in the Tony Robbins world. Like he totally geeks out on it. Takes like all day off to do that. Whatever. He has like multi-day seminars.
Who are we talking about?
Corey.
Oh,
yeah. But anyway, yeah. So you came on as a coach with no experience. So I would assume they threw you kind of into the ringer of trying to learn how that goes, right?
It's, there's like virtual training for a few months, and then you go to like the UPW event, and then you have a week-long training after that. When I went through there, it was still kind of like old school hazing, like a lot of that, but then my first year there, I was the number one coach on the team. The middle half.
Oh, so you obviously picked it up pretty quickly. Was selling still a component, or did they have their own kind of like sales arm where they got people to enroll in the coaching programs, and then you stepped in and took over then?
No, there was a separate sales team, but the coaches could sell like event tickets, a contract, or when the contract was up for renewal. But yeah, that's actually my dog food story is how I got to number one.
Yeah, Owen just watched that right before we started.
I did.
This.
Yeah, that was gross.
That was gross.
I know you probably told this story a million times, but would you mind sharing your dog food story? Like,
no,
I was randomly researching you, and I came across a YouTube clip that you were eating dog food out of a can. I was
yes, I was eating dog food. Out of a can.
The hell? Who is this guy?
And what I didn't know at the time before I started is dog food has bones in it. Yeah. Chunks of bone. So you can't chew it all the way.
It's like Christmas vacation when we're eating a turkey.
Yeah. Yeah. So in 2013, my wife, we had our first son, and my wife was pregnant, and our second son was due like right on Easter. So we decided to move from Mill Valley, California, which is the North Bay, to Sacramento to basically cut our living expenses in half so she can be a stay-at-home mom and I can just work. We did that. The day after I moved there, I got laid off from my tech job. That same week, I got a call saying you're invited to Tony Robbins coach training and it's not free. So I'm this spiral of emotions, and the baby due in 4 weeks with no money, no insurance, nothing. Oh. So it was really build a business with a gun to your head. And I had been in the Bay Area in technology sales for 15 years. So it was very common for people to work in the Sacramento and work the Bay Area. But all of a sudden, when I was there was a trend. They stopped hiring that way. So I couldn't find another job. So I basically started going to the Chamber of Commerce and stuff like that and just trying to build the coaching business. So we were really struggling financially in 2013. We were on food assistance from the state before. My wife came home and was like, our debit card got declined at the store and someone bought us groceries, So that's where I was getting here, So
would you consider that rock bottom right there?
Probably, yeah. Yeah. One of the rock bottoms. And then so it's 2013. At the end of 2013 is when I started coaching for Robbins. Early 2014, I'm like struggling for cash. I'm on the phone with another coach who's a peer of mine there. His name is Gabriel Patrick. He's an awesome coach. And we're having this converation. I'm like, I need to find $2,500 this week to pay rent. And he goes, okay, we'll make $2,500. I'm like, okay, done. He goes, okay, now go post it on the Tony Robbins coaches team's Facebook page, internal Facebook page. Go post on that page that you're going to make $2,500 by Friday, and it was Monday, or you're going to eat a can of dog food. And he asked me that question. I was like, and I tried to answer, and the words like froze. It wouldn't come out of my mouth. And he, being a brilliant coach that he was, knew my son Dash was 3 years old. He said, Jason, how are you going to feel in 10 years when Dash is hanging out after school with his buddies and his friends ask him, hey, why do you live with your grandma? And Dash says, we live with our grandma because my dad wasn't willing to eat dog food to create financial independence. So just like this gut punch.
That's hitting below the belt a little bit.
So, and then he said, or do you want him to say, we live this amazing life because my dad was willing to do anything? So I said, yes, I'll make the decision. So I committed to that. I went to shot a video of myself. And this is Robbins mindfuck. You're still trying to earn your way to full-time client load, So I'm posting it in there in front of all the management team and everything. The Monday goes by, Tuesday goes by, Wednesday goes by. My stomach is turning in knots. Just like I'm just nauseous, flipping out. Friday, I closed two contracts for $2,500. It was late in the day, and both of them said, "Can I pay you Monday?" And there's no way I was going to screw it up by forcing a payment. So I said, "Yes, I'll take your payment Monday." So I technically failed the challenge. So Saturday morning, I go in there to do the challenge because I really pride myself on, like, one of my biggest drivers is to do what I say I'm going to do. Like I will die doing that. And so I'm like, I have to do this. So I went to start it. And right before I started eating it, a switch flipped. And it basically said, this isn't a punishment. I'm doing something disgusting because I chose to. And then I started to eat. And I got most of it down before it started to come back up. But the thing is, what happened is there was a part of me that would set a big goal, get excited, not hit it, but just set another big goal and feel excited again, never really getting anywhere.
Yes.
And that part of me died that week. That died that week. Fast forward to July 1st, 2014, our sales coaching director is reading off the performance for the first half of the year. And the number one metric they measure on is renewals. What percentage of your contracts renew? That's our number one metric. And one guy, Dave Blomsterberg, he was always number one, but I beat him. I was number one. I was 100%. 100% of my clients renewed, and everybody just was looking around like, how the hell do you do that? The next year I started selling my own coaching contracts, my own live events through Robbins, through a loophole I found. And I literally made $150,000 working there. And the next coach behind me made like 70. That was 2015. Then 2016, all of this work I had done selling those corporate workshops got Tony's attention. Then that relaunched the whole business results coaching division, and all that launched after that. They whacked the commission down by 80%. So I left.
What? Oh man.
Did you at least get a phone call from Tony, like congratulating you on your being top salesperson?
Like the salespeople couldn't even sell it, but I did a workshop. I went to Australia, I went to the Philippines. It was fun. So and we were basically creating all the content ourselves for those workshops. So that was kind of like where I started speaking, and a lot of my content started coming. But the thing is, my coaching style evolved beyond Tony Robbins style early 2014. I'm coaching at the level above them. Like I'm coaching at the level above mindset. He's still coaching at mindset level. We're the only one that's doing that.
Was there anything specific that you were doing as you were going through this process that you said, you know what, I see this, but I also think I could layer on some other things? Or were you just doing that naturally, and it just ended up that you were a really good coach, and able to elevate? What
I'm coaching now is zero Tony Robbins, like none, zero. I haven't done his content for years. And I just started I'm on a coaching call, and literally all of my content come from these moments. And these moments usually were when I was on a coaching call and I say something, and if I'm in flow and I say something and I was like, holy shit. So there was a long period of time I'm recording everything I'm saying to try and capture it all. But I basically figured out when I was in a big lawsuit, actually. That first company got sued.
By Tony Robbins?
No, not Tony Robbins. My race car driver cooling suit company.
Oh.
So we basically took about $450 in startup capital, and then we needed more money, and we were out, and we're like, okay, we're done. He's like, I'll take a note. I'm like, we're not putting our names on a note, my partner. And he's like, just put it on there. I'll never call it. So we took $150K in notes. 4.5 years later, 5 years later, which is beyond the statute of limitations of a promissory note in California, he gets in a divorce, throws us under the bus in the divorce settlement, and his wife, who's the bariatric surgeon, all the money, comes after us with a completely frivolous lawsuit. Like, it was so bad, our attorney had to file a motion for excessive discovery requests.
Ugh.
Seriously, he's just billing. That was it, right? So basically, I'm sitting there trying to be this peak Tony Robbins coach. I get an email from my attorney. I'm in panic attacks. I'm talking to my partner. How are we going to fight the legal fees for this? And we're both broke. And I'm sitting here and I write down, my attorney's name is Terry, and he's awesome. But I said, every time Terry calls, it's bad news. And I wrote it down. And I said, I hate that belief. And I crossed it out. And when I crossed it out, I felt lighter instantly. And I was like, what the hell just happened? And what actually happened is I figured out how to change a belief in moments. Tony Robbins never taught me how to do that. He taught me how to change someone's emotional state. I figured out you can change a belief simply by taking ownership of it. So I went through that, and that belief right there that was triggered from the lawsuit from the previous business failure is the foundation of JDC today.
This episode is brought to you by JM Real Estate Capital.
Hi, it's Rob, JM Real Estate Capital. We're the money guys that you need to know for all your real estate investments. Talk to us. We can do what your local bank can't or won't do. We don't have millions. We have trillions with a T to lend. 844 we close, or go online, jmrecapital.com. That's jmrecapital.com. JM Real Estate Capital, smart solutions for the real estate investor.
I had this book idea for a long time. I like writing, but I just don't spend the time necessary to put out a product, right? I enjoy it while I'm doing it, but then I'm like, oh God, I have to. It's like homework, right? I don't like if I'm assigning that to myself. I like to do it when I like to do it, but no agenda or whatever. And I was playing around with this concept of I always had felt like I was not living up to my potential, and it was like my cross to bear. Like my whole life I felt like this. You could do, whatever you want, and then I was just like, okay, but I'm not doing that. I'm not pushing myself all the time. So I was playing around with this idea of, a book called like the 70% solution, or something to the effect of being a percentage of your potential. And then I was playing around with like half the man you could be, or whatever, or something like that. And then I was reading through and listening to some of your stuff, and it seems like you really, at least early on in your podcast, were really driving on that track as well, just unfulfilled potential, and kind of like getting the gap closer and closer to fulfillment. What do you think is in entrepreneurs in particular that this feeling of either more, they want more, they need more, they have these big goals? What have you seen coaching those types versus somebody that's just okay with being average, or maybe they work in corporate America and they don't want anything like beyond that?
Well, the latter you just described doesn't hire coaches. They don't. So it's all the former.
I think it's interesting that entrepreneurs seem to really resist authority. It seems like I don't know if you feel this way, but with all the people we've interviewed, it seems like, I want to start my own business. And I can tell you personally, I never liked somebody else having their thumb on me and being master of my time. And that was a big reason why I just wanted to whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, get away from something as opposed to running towards something. But yet it seems like entrepreneurs gravitate toward needing a good business coach, which is the same thing. They're resisting accountability, but yet they want it and need it.
Yeah.
Isn't that a dichotomy? I mean, like, what do you make of that?
Selling coaching is strange. I'll have I'll talking to somebody and I'm like, here's your problem. Here's how you solve it with coaching. Here's how much it costs. Here's what your return on that. Do you want to sign up? No. Like, what's going on when someone signs up for coaching isn't just, do I want to hire a coach to work on my business? At some level, consciously or subconsciously, they know that once they sign up for coaching, at least with Jason Drees coaching, they no longer have an option but to give it their all. Those outs that they've used in the past to play small and be safe don't work anymore. Some people know that there's shit in their past that's going to come up they may not be ready to deal with.
You got to get vulnerable. I mean,
you have to, yeah.
I mean, that's a scary part about it. It's really got to dig in deep and say, hey, this is what I'm failing at, and I need to answer to it and put it out there. And that's scary.
Well, people don't realize that the foundation of all this transformation is actually the life coaching portion. Because we do mindset coaching as our specialty, but we deliver it through life coaching and business coaching. Everybody who comes to us is trying to make more money, like 90%. But the big majority of the time, the thing that unlocks that is getting better internal self-alignment, or their relationship with money is off, or their confidence, they have doubt from their past because their dad put them down or something like that. Like, it's usually something like that that's shutting down their entire system. I've had clients come in and their business was stagnant for 3 years. And then I coached them and worked on their relationship with themselves. And all of a sudden they start excelling without changing anything in business, because the reality you're experiencing is a match to the frequency that you're operating in. There is a multiverse. There is an infinite number of versions of you. The challenge is that, and life has changed over the past 10 years, right? I discovered the frame level, which is the level above mindset, in 2014, 2015. The reason Tony Robbins and all the other neurolinguistic programming is old school is because that stuff was created in the 80s and they could only access the mindset level then. So at the frame level, we're literally controlling your frequency, because the way the average person lives is they wake up, they look at their life, they have a reaction to their job, their partner, their body, whatever. And from that place of reaction, they take a reaction. So basically the reactions are dictating their frequency. What I have figured out how to do is to get people out of that reaction and have them consciously shift their frequency into the future version of themselves that has the result they want.
When you mentioned earlier, you said you had a guy that whenever he called you, it was always bad news.
Yeah.
And then you had kind of a self-actualization moment where you said, fuck that. That's not true. And that's a like self-fulfilling prophecy almost. But what do you go through mentally to do that with yourself? Like, if you were going to coach Jason Drees, like, what was happening inside your mind when you were able to reframe how you viewed a situation that was happening to you?
Well, what I actually did was I changed the belief, because beliefs are always running. The emotional reaction you're having to that thing is based on your belief about that. So when I wrote down every time Terry calls, it's bad news, I crossed it out. And then I asked myself, how much do I believe that? And I'm like, I believe it 20%. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I believed it 100. So then I basically went after the doubt. Why am I doubting it? I found another belief that says you can't change beliefs that fast. You're not Tony Robbins, blah, 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 blah. So I had to go through and remove those beliefs. And once I removed all of those, it neutralized the new belief. And then I put the new belief in place, which is contradictory to the old one. That also empowers you. So now every time Terry calls, it's great news because he's a bulldog and he's on my side and he kicks ass.
You sound like you could be one of the writers on the movie Inception.
Great movie.
No, that I think that's really fascinating. People carry so much baggage around, and you're right about the belief systems that you have. They know it's true because they believe it. Yeah. But why do they believe it? I just think it's such a, I don't know, it'd be really cool to see somebody kind of unraveling their own belief systems in front of you and then coming back together with something that's way more positive and productive.
Let's go on. Do it.
Wait, haven't you seen my podcast? That's all my podcast is. That's all it is. There's a couple episodes that are really good about me doing that. Like the one with Sam Weigart and Danielle Mann. Those were really good episodes. Yeah.
We'll link specifically to those in the show notes too.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were in the Robbins coaching program for a while. It sounds like there was some business structure, commission structure changes that happened that were kind of, maybe you were kicking it around, but that really made your decision come to fruition on leaving. Yeah. What was it like when you started to kind of go out on your own officially? And what was how long did it take you to really catch traction on that?
Well, I actually went to take a job. I took a job with one of my clients that was completely unqualified for, but I had such rapport, I was able to close this job. I basically took a job as chief strategy officer of an outsourcing company in the Philippines with a $200K salary.
Hey, fits right in.
And while I love coaching, we were just struggling, I was tired of being broke. So I did that. I self-sabotaged that one because of my financial mindset. That's the second time. That's another story. And then I kind of got back into coaching, but it wasn't until 2019. Like I started working with Brandon Turner, I think in 2016, 2017, but I didn't really realize who he was until 2019. And then in 2019, because I wasn't a real estate investor, So I coached Brandon for about 7 years, actually. I've probably coached him longer than any other client. And when I started working with him, there was an interesting process of getting that relationship going from a partnership point of view.
How do you work with somebody like Brandon for a couple of years and not know about what he does? Isn't that part of the whole coaching process or not?
Well, I knew he was a real estate investor, but I didn't know he was an influencer. Mm-hmm. This was back when he had the full-time job working for Bigger Pockets.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't until the early 2019 when I realized, I was like, oh, he's got 50,000 Instagram followers. So that's when I started getting on Instagram and doing that.
To this date, Brandon's still our highest viewed podcast that we've ever had. We actually was in San Diego or no? San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego.
Yeah. We went to the Airbnb in San Diego and did a live interview there. And Megan Ahern connected us.
Nice.
And so it's our highest viewed podcast we ever had. And because of that interview specifically, we were able to get so many other high level interviews and it lead us to where we are at right now. So shout out to Megan and Brandon for that.
Yeah. He's a magnet.
Who's taller, Tony Robbins or Brandon Turner?
I think it's about the same. Toss-up.
Okay, how did he enter your world? And I know this isn't the Brandon Turner story, but it is. Would it be fair to say that was a defining moment for you when that coaching relationship began?
No, the defining moment was when the partnership kind of began. Mm-hmm. The affiliate kind of referral partnership. That's when things started to grow. Before I was just coaching, I didn't really realize. He basically found me from a guy named Kevin Carroll, who was in GoBundance, and Brandon was in GoBundance. Kevin Carroll is pretty awesome. He lives in Idaho, and his first year he flipped like 100 houses.
Oh, just in year one, like everybody does.
Yeah, because he didn't know you're not supposed to do that.
So, in 2020, I think I caught part of an episode you were on where you said your business 10x'd.
Yeah,
the time frame of that sound right?
The end of 2020. I started working with Brandon at the end of 2019. And if you want to know the truth about it, started out with doing an Instagram live. The thing I find really interesting about this is that we would have a coaching call and he goes, we should do an Instagram live. I'm like, okay. And then he wouldn't follow through. And he would do that like once a quarter. I had talked to him about this. He doesn't actually remember this, but he would do that about once a quarter for about a year. So I just realized, he doesn't he doesn't do what he says he's going to do. We're just he's just being nice or something like that. And then I realized it was like November 2019. I realized the reason I wasn't working with Brandon, it was because I wasn't at a high enough financial frequency to work with him.
How do you mean?
He was at this level and I was here. We weren't a match financially to work together. So I found this book called Being You, Changing the World by Dane Here, which is a mindset book with Dane's tools for changing beliefs. And I ran his money mindset tool exercises every day for 21 days. The next call I had with Brandon, he goes, we should do a podcast or do an Instagram live. I'm like, okay, let's do Instagram live. And the next day I get an email from his assistant. We booked that. So then we rocked that Instagram live in November. We did once a month and I started getting like 7 clients a month for the next like 10 months. And then, so we hit August 1st, 2020. Jason Drees coaching is just Jason Drees. I had like 65 clients on my own. And I've never heard of anybody having 65 clients. I had 65 clients. I was making more money than ever. It was awesome. I had everything under control. And then Brandon invites me on the Bigger Pockets podcast. And I'm like, okay, sure. Go on the Bigger Pockets podcast.
I'm like, oh shit.
It airs in September. And in October, we had 192 people book in an introductory coaching session. And it was just me.
Oh God.
So basically it went from me, I hired a salesperson, 3 coaches, an ops person, built all this infrastructure for that in 30 days. So we get to November 1st and then I'm like, let's do this Mindset Academy that Brian and I did, this group coach, 6-week group coaching program. And the funny thing is I'd been pushing him on this for like 6 months, but I wasn't at the high enough level. So I had to work on my willingness to be seen visibly. And that was the belief that I had to change to get in alignment with him. And that course right there was 4 hours a week for 6 weeks. And 2 of those hours per week was brand new content for me. So that was while I was managing the new company, while I was coaching 65 clients, my head was just on fire at a level that I'd never even understood before. And that's where I discovered frame shifting. So this is how my brain works. So I'm sitting here going, I'm so overwhelmed. Everything's going great. Don't f it up. I'm literally just thinking that every day. Don't screw it. Don't screw it up because the business 10x'd in Q4. It's like, don't f it up. Then my brain goes, August 1st, you have everything dialed in. But if you took Jason from 10 years ago and put him to August 1st, he would be completely overwhelmed. So that told me there's a Jason in the future who could come to November 15th and would look. All of a sudden, I thought about that and I felt lighter. My stress went away. My doubt disappeared. My confidence went up. And I was like, what the hell just happened? I don't know what happened, but I had done my first frame shift. And so I basically did that 5 or 6 times a day. And then that's how I got through that phase without self-sabotaging. And the next year, the business tripled. So we 10x'd and then tripled.
Is the frame shifting, would you, like, how would you describe that in I guess in an overall way? Because it sounds like what you said was a lot of this seems like it's trimming baggage that you're carrying around from past belief systems that doesn't serve you anymore. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's kind of, but beliefs are contained within a frequency. Think of like multiverse, right? So usually the version of you in the multiverse is a reaction to the physical reality. It's usually a reaction to the physical reality, or it's your conditioned pattern for that thing you're doing, right? That's usually. What I've figured out how to do is to shift into the version of you that knows an answer you don't have yet or is in the future. And with our focus controls our frequency, but we don't know how to do that. But I've figured out these tools on how to basically move it. And the way you do it is actually really, really simple. It's like, just get a sense of the version of you that understands frame shifting more than you do now. Just like that.
This is straight out of like Marvel stuff right here. You should be all.
Well, I just made a post. So my 50th birthday was Wednesday this week, and my daughter got me a. She makes fun of me because I'm a big Marvel guy and I love Deadpool. He's my favorite. Like Deadpool and Wolverine. I've seen it probably 6-7 times. She got me this trading card. It was a Deadpool trading card, and he says something smart ass on the front of it. And then she actually got Ryan Reynolds' autograph. And my daughter's 16, and she doesn't do that kind of stuff. And she was so excited about this coming in UPS. And I opened it up last night, and I look at it, and I'm like, "Holy shit! Is this really his autograph?" And what she was actually trying to do, there's this the site, and I think it's called Cameo, if I understand this right. And it's basically you can pay celebrities to give you a message where it's their actual voice and they're speaking it directly to you. And it costs like, $250 or whatever for like a 1-minute message or a happy birthday or whatever. And she was trying to do that and get Ryan Reynolds, but couldn't make it work or was way too expensive or something. So she got me this card. And I'm like, that is the coolest gift you have ever given me in your life. And I thank you for being so thoughtful and all that. But I don't know where I'm going with this.
Proud dad moment.
It was so cool though. I put it on Instagram, and I was super excited about that. But you were talking about the multiverse. I was trying to remember why I went on this tangent.
About Marvel, and you got so excited.
Yeah. But no, I just think it's, man, people get in their way so much. I'm wondering though, when you start a potential client, engagement. So I assume you have a discovery call with somebody. Like, let's say I'm like, you know what? I'm kicking around getting a business coaching. I've heard good things about this Jason dude.
Yeah.
Let's see what this is all about. What does that look like? And do you have an avatar for a typical type of a customer or a client of yours?
Well, typically the intake calls I don't really the complete full scripted sales process that runs them through all the things. I typically try to just give them an experience of coaching, to give them what it's like and kind of explain. And I think I would probably sell more contracts if I actually did it the official selling way. But, I just like to deliver value even if they're not paying me or not. That's kind of my goal. It's sometimes difficult because it's really strange being an expert in something that's hard to explain to people.
Yeah.
But when people understand what I'm doing, they go, whoa, right? Because the simplest way to think about it is like the results you get come from the actions you take. The actions come from your mindset. Your mindset comes from your frame. So if you're not getting the results you want, you're not taking the right actions. If you're not taking the right actions, you're in the wrong mindset. If you're in the wrong mindset, you're in the wrong frame. But as humans, we don't think that way. We think the problem is strategy. So we start chasing strategy. So we spend all this time chasing strategy to try to figure out what to do when we are in a version of us that will never hit the target.
So it seems like I'm picturing somebody is calling you because they're saying, I have a bottleneck in my business, or I've hit a plateau, or we've got sales that we just can't break through this. They come to you and they say, help, what is wrong? How can I grow my business? It would seem to me like, based on what you've said so far, a lot of those tactical strategy type calls, what they think they need is that. But it seems like it would automatically transition into like, okay, what is the leader doing in this business that is causing these bottlenecks? Does it turn into an overall coaching program, or is it always, segregated?
It depends, right? That isn't always the case. What I like to do, the old coaching way, the results-based coaching, is to focus on action and accountability. That's the whole thing, action, accountability. What I do, my goal is to get them into the version of them where the answer flows. Because when you shift into an aligned frame, the aligned frame creates an aligned mindset. The aligned mindset creates aligned action. The aligned action creates amazing results. So all my goal is I'm just trying to get them in an aligned frame, because you'd be surprised. Like, most of coaching is after, at the end of every coaching call, the coach says, do this, do this, do this, do this. With my coaching, they know exactly what to do because I just got them into alignment.
This episode is brought to you by PropStream.
PropStream is one of the most trusted real estate data software solutions. PropStream benefits all real estate professionals. You can find properties and contact homeowners on the go with PropStream's mobile app. We offer free academy courses tailored to real estate investors and agents. Take advantage of our live webinar demos to learn the software and scale your real estate business. Visit www.propstream.com and sign up for your 7-day free trial to get more leads and grow your business.
Okay, the next thing I'm curious about with you is when you went from, I have 65 clients. Yeah. I'm handling it all. My hair's on fire. Brandon comes in and basically shines a light on what you're doing for him. And then all of a sudden you're exploding. This reminds me, to make another Shark Tank reference, this reminds me of a manufacturing facility that all of a sudden they're struggling to make sales. And then they have way more orders than they can actually fulfill. That seems like kind of what you went through. And then you were like, holy shit, I have to build the parachute here on the way down to help cover so I don't know. I just think it's fascinating what happens to people when they all of a sudden get what they want, or when they are like, have this huge catalyst to move them so far forward they can't even see their old self. I don't know, man. Like I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit with this questioning, but when you started hiring people to cover the fact that you weren't going to be able to service your own clients like you're used to, what was that like? And what type of mindset shift did you have to go through to start having people replacing you and doing the things you used to do?
It was relatively easy to get coaches because pretty much all the coaches on my team right now, I wouldn't call them my direct reports. I call them my peers because I've met them all. So what's unique about my team is that they're all been coaching for 10 years, So hiring them was actually rather easy. The hard part, and what most of my clients experienced the first year, most of my clients experienced the Tony Robbins coaching experience because they were all Tony Robbins coaches. Because that first year, I didn't know how I was doing what I was doing. There was this level of unconscious competence where I could do this alignment-based coaching, but I couldn't articulate what I was doing. It took almost another year before I could come up with the actual new coaching syntax that's different. That was one of my challenges, to try to get it out of my head, because the content that never stops flowing through me. It's just like, and I'm like the most unorganized person on the planet because I'm just like right up to, I'm just such in the clouds all the time. So closing that gap was one of the challenges we had. But, I actually hired, he's not with me anymore, but he was one of the coaching trainers at Tony Robbins, and he's an amazing guy. He was with me about a year and a half, and he did an amazing job taking what's in my head and kind of teaching it everybody there.
Do you think that entrepreneurs and people, business owners, people that are high achievers, is there some resistance to them admitting that they don't know what they're talking about, or they don't know what it takes, where they maybe have given off that perception to other people? Is that a thing? Because it's kind of like I don't know, I'm picturing myself and I think I'm really good at what I do, and then I go and I'm admitting that I don't know everything. There's kind of a little bit of a shame or something like that with it? Some
people can have that. Yeah. Some people's belief structure is wired in a way that they have to know everything. Those people are also destined to not be happy because if you try to control everything and know everything, that's a recipe for other people not liking you.
I do know some people like that. No, I'm kidding. Okay, what's next for you? So you've grown this. Your organization now looks like what? You have, how many coaches do you have that work in?
Right now, I've got 8 coaches.
8 coaches.
Yeah.
Okay. And are you good? Are you really wanting to grow more? Are you in growth mode or maintain mode, or what?
We're I hate to say it, but we're in survival mode. We're down 70% over 2 years ago.
Is that mainly because you work with real estate investors and the real estate economy has just sucked the last 2 years?
Yeah, from my experience of being a professional coach for 11 years, coaching is usually recession proof. When 80% of your clients are real estate investors, not so much.
I
get it, because I have multiple businesses, but I am also a realtor.
Yeah.
And I work with investors, and that side of my business is I mean, it wasn't unheard of 4 or 5 years ago to be making $250,000 a year in that business. Mm-hmm. I'm ashamed to say it, but I think I probably did like 67,000 in that one business last year. I used to pay my investing business and my flipping business and everything else. Everything else was just invested back into itself, but that part has just sucked. And so, I mean, I understand totally where you're coming from.
Yeah, we did use this opportunity, and I brought an investor on to help with some funding for this year. And then about 8 weeks ago, we had to do a downsize, which actually, unfortunately, put more roles on my plate, but has kind of reinvigorated the business a bit. Mm-hmm. But the big shift we made this year, because people literally just like in February, we only sold 2 coaching contracts, and we would normally sell 20 to 25 a month. So it was literally just like people are just frozen. So what we did is we took the opportunity to shift from selling fixed length coaching contracts to a subscription model. So we're now operating under a recurring revenue model, which is far more sustainable. So we're at the point now where we're basically just building that back up to our normal monthly expenses. We're still a little bit short of that, but when we get there, it's going to be awesome, because recurring revenue, way better than one time.
Yeah. Now, kind of tying this back though, you mentioned that when you were coaching for Tony Robbins, you were the only person that ever had a 100% renewal rate. That, to me, speaks volumes for the subscription model, because if people are renewing, obviously you have good retention, and that seems like a natural, why did it take you so long to realize that?
I don't know. But right now, I wish retention was higher. We started out with cancel anytime, and we're getting cancellations at like 3 months, 4 months. So we just changed it to 6 months minimum now. But the people just don't have money right now, is the majority of people. And the majority of my focus had been selling team contracts, so I don't have to do the work. The people that just on average, that part of the market doesn't have cash right now. The part of the market that has cash are the people who would pay to coach with me. So the majority of the contracts I've sold in the past 60 days have been with 75% have been with my contracts, because that audience still has money. So that's one of the pivots I'm doing right now, is going after more clients for me.
well, they say that everybody in the economy is doing so much better, and we're making so much more money. What are you talking about?
Next year, I think it's going to be awesome. I can't wait for income tax to disappear. That's going to be fun. But I'm voting for that one.
Can we dive a little bit into that? Are you willing to talk about pricing and for anybody that's interested in your coaching?
Yeah.
I know that Owen and I mean, we had a specific conversation. Like, man, Jason Drees, I'd love to get coached by him. So, like, what's that look like?
Yeah. So coaching with me, we typically do a 60-minute contract or 90-minute contract. My rates 2 years ago, I used to charge $25,000 a quarter, but real estate investors don't have that anymore. So right now, my rates are literally $1,500 or $2,000 a month.
Big cut.
It's a big cut. Yeah. I'm also playing the recurring revenue model based on how much of my time I have an hourly rate. So if my hourly rate's over a few thousand an hour, then it's doing good.
And then what about with your team?
Team is $597 or $797.
And what's the difference between that?
60 minutes or 90 minutes.
Got it.
Yeah.
And what's a good client for you anyway?
A good client is somebody who knows they're capable of more. They feel maybe there's an invisible force holding them back. They're stuck. They don't know what to do. They know there's more potential. They just don't know how to get there, and they're willing to do the work. That's the ideal client.
How about somebody just repeatedly says that we're having imposter syndrome? Because I think it's the most common thing that we say that we are dealing with.
Well, imposter syndrome is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because what imposter syndrome actually means is it means you have more success right now than you think you should have. And I would welcome that.
Yeah, that's an interesting, I can't poke holes in that. I would agree with that. I've never really looked at it that way, but that there's something there. I think
it's also a part of the cycle. And I've experienced this where imposter syndrome, no imposter syndrome for 2 years, and it came back again. So there's a cycle of growth where that comes into play. But imposter syndrome is literally life telling you you're not thinking big enough. And I'd say probably 98% of the clients that come into JDC are aiming way too small, because most people live their life based on their mindset and their experience. And your experience is your biggest limiting factor from going big in the future.
My biggest struggle right now is trying to figure out where to put my time in. Is it the podcast? Is it our local REIA meetup? Is it my real estate investing, or is it, is it doing Airbnbs, or is it being a realtor? I just, I struggle with which avenue I should be really focusing in on.
I have problems with that too.
Well, it depends on what your goals are. Mm-hmm. What are you trying to do in the next 6 months? What's your target?
I guess that's where I struggle. But I really put more focus into the podcast more than anything. I really love to be able to grow this and take it to the next level and be able to get more ad sponsorships than what we have right now.
Okay.
Because I enjoy this the most out of everything, I guess.
Okay. So what do you want to do more of?
I would like to do more of this right here.
Then why don't you do more of this?
Talking, we are, and we did. We increased it to an extra episode a week, and try and bring in other sponsors. We just sat down with David Dodge, and he really kind of put an aha moment on us when he told us what type of money he was getting on his podcast versus what we're getting, and how we should be changing our systems and our.
Jeez, I haven't signed any sponsors yet. I'm just still recording, so we need to share that information with me too.
Our coaching program is $797.
We'll trade
it off. Let's talk putting stuff in writing. You have a book out there. When did that come out? What's it called?
It's called.
Are you proud of it?
Yes. It's called
Do the Impossible. Okay.
I did listen to this about 2 years ago, by the way.
Yes. It came out in 22. It's kind of the foundation of frame shifting is in there, kind of the story of frame shifting. And it's really this book basically helps you tap into the nature of your untapped potential and how much potential you really have. That's what this book is really about. It's just really stepping into yourself, because what I've found is playing at your 100% full potential is the hardest thing you can ever do. Because when you play it at that level, you get hit with all this stuff with life. So playing at that level is one of the reasons I've got to where I am, but it's also one of the things that makes my life so challenging. It's playing at that level. Was it Brandon that taught you into writing that book? No, I had been wanting to write it. He gave me an introduction to Bigger Pockets. They said, yep, they want to do a mindset book. They wouldn't let me record the audiobook though. I was a little bummed about that. So the audiobook's not mine, but the next book that's in my head is going to be a big book. It's the book on alignment.
How long does it take you from concept to like this book in particular that you wrote? What was the process like writing it? And was it a labor of love, or were you kind of like, oh my God, I have to finish
It was a strange process. I wrote a bunch. I had a ghostwriter because I'm not that amazing of a writer. I'm a great talker, speaker. So I would dump stuff. The big challenge we had was I have so much information. I literally have 10 books in my head. So the hardest part was condensing it down to one that made sense. So we'd go there, and Bonnie, the ghostwriter, she did a brilliant job of pulling my crazy, all this stuff and putting it into this linear format in the book. Yeah, that's kind of how it worked. And I could write a great email or even a couple paragraphs or a page, but the concepts were so big, I couldn't hold it together in my head and I would struggle. It was a really interesting experience. I'd try to hold this chapter and I couldn't hold it in my head because it was too much. So I'd basically be restarting the chapter multiple times over and over again because I just couldn't think at the level to structure it. I needed somebody else to do that for me.
I was kind of thinking about this the other day. Pretty much once a day, I have a one-on-one session with somebody, and they're like, "Hey, I want to pick your brain," and I'm like, "Hey, let's meet and have a cigar. Let's talk about it." Right?
Yeah.
And I feel like when I'm in those one-on-ones, the content that comes out of me, I'm like, where the hell did I come up with that? And I'm like,
I do that,
and
too,
I'm like, this is the best content I ever could have. If I could just record every one of those, but if I'm sitting there and trying to think about it, it doesn't come out that way, or I can't write it and come out. But if I'm having that one-on-one session with somebody, I'm like, man, this is money.
That has been my biggest challenge, is because it's literally flow. And it's like all of this content is like literally I'm channeling it from somewhere, but it shows up in my head as thought. But if you ask me to just go, it's blank. Like for me, I'm usually responding to something. So if you ask me a question or give me something to respond to, it's easy. But the starting blank is where I struggle.
I think this is really interesting. I feel the same way. It's like somebody is talking, like my mouth opens and I have no idea what's coming out, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, that wasn't bad.
Yeah, but you have amazing active listening skills. That's what I mean. That's why you succeed in a podcast. That's why you talk 80% of the time, because you can just absorb it all. And then I'm sitting here and I'm writing notes. I'm like, okay, I got to talk about this and about this. How am I going to work that in? But you are just really like on it. That's your superpower.
Well, okay. Thank you. But I am just interested in people and what makes them tick and their whole process and mindset and like why you're doing the things you are. And the huge benefit we have to having this platform is we get front and center
with Jason Drees
advice. Like we get to ask the questions that a whole bunch of people probably want to ask that don't get the opportunity to. We get a peek behind the curtain of authors, like really high performing people that are just kicking ass in business and life and like have great stories and families. And that is why I love this. And that is why I do it for free. Actually, less than free.
Less than free.
But no, I just I love the human condition and finding out what makes people tick. It's so fascinating to me how generational people can inherit mindsets and beliefs that have no basis in reality, in their own reality. They should be doing one thing, and it's very obvious to people looking at them, and they're like, why are you doing it that way? And they're like, well, my dad did, or my mom did, or whatever. That's how I grew up. And they cannot kick that generational curse of things. And I just find that fascinating too.
It takes a lot of work to break the generational stuff. And one of the reasons I'm doing so much work, I broke the pattern of financial scarcity for my lineage. I broke that because it was passed down multiple times. But the way I look at it, anytime I'm dealing with, like, I'm just in so much work this year. This 50th year was by far my most challenging year, but I realize if I don't do the work, then my boys are going to have to do it. So if I solve that problem, then they get to work on something bigger.
So you keep on going back to 2014 when you had to eat that can. That has just stuck with you because it's like a moment in your life, and it's still affecting you right now.
Well, I made a decision when I started coaching in 2013, that if there's something wrong inside me or doesn't feel good, I'm going to look at it. I'm no longer going to avoid it. So I just literally don't give myself the option but to deal with it.
How do you know if you're really built for coaching? Because I keep on telling this guy over here that he would be a natural at it. He should be under the Jason Drees umbrella and bring people in because, people want to pick his brain. He's giving away for free, 9 times a week. So how do you know if somebody's right for that?
Good question, right? I can see natural coaching skills and natural coaching ability. You got to be a good listener, and you got to be able to like really dial into other people. And one of the things that makes me such a great coach is I'm an empath and I can read emotion on people like crazy. So that helps a lot. but anybody can be a coach if they want to. The thing about becoming a coach is that becoming a coach is one of the biggest personal growth journeys that you can go on. The majority of the coach training, the Robbins coach training, wasn't on coaching syntax. It was getting your shit together.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. So, man, I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours. I probably will, actually. You may have just signed up a couple of subscription model people here. But
nice.
Okay, so you are looking back, and you have gone through several like transformational moments in your career and life and mindset. If you were going to pick an alternate career, we're in the vein of the multiverse here. You look over here. What is Jason Drees doing? Like, what do you feel like? You know what? If I had another shot and I was starting over, it would be really cool if I had a career as XYZ, or if I did this. Is there anything coming to mind?
Well, I thought I was going to be a jet-setting race car driver for a while there, but that never, I'm like, oh, this is cool. The thing about being in auto racing is I didn't realize that 80% of the guys were paying to be there, So I was like, I'm going to be a jet-setting race car driver, dropping $300,000 a season to go race cars,
I wanted to cry when I spent $2,000 in tires in the last month.
Yeah. No, but coaching is why I'm here. That is it for me. I'll never stop. I wish I could spend more time coaching and running the business. I wish I could spend less time marketing, selling, social media, and I could just do more coaching.
Yeah.
And events. I wish to do that. And I think we'll get back to that point again. I think next year, with our new president's I think the economy is going to be awesome next year. So I'm excited about that. But it's what I'm supposed to be.
Well, Jason, let's dive deep into this. Let's talk about why you can't hire somebody to take care of these things.
My wife, her first cousin, Mike, he was one of 3 owners of Quest Nutrition. Mm-hmm. So you ever see those protein bars, and they have like a whole product line or whatever.
Yeah. So
he started that company with 2 other guys, and one of them is now, and Tom Bilyeu is another guy. He's a big social media influencer and whatever, like life coach, whatever. And he sold that company for $1 billion at the B. And so each partner walked away $333 million, and before taxes, obviously. Mm-hmm. And he, this is in the vein of racing. So we're like, what are you going to do, man? Like, whenever I see him, he's just like a really cool dude, and we can just have a normal conversation. Like, he's just a normal guy. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what the hell are you going to do with her? I mean, I don't even know what do you do with that? And so what he's doing is he bought his wife a vineyard for her birthday, just because, it's your happy birthday. Here you go.
Yeah.
She must love wine.
I don't know now. I mean, and then he started racing trucks in the desert.
Oh, awesome.
So for my wife's my wife's 50th birthday, she went to Las Vegas, and north of Las Vegas, between there and like Mesquite, Nevada, they have this racing circuit where they do these like dune, they're like, there's these desert trucks, and he makes no money. In fact, it costs him I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars he's dumped into this, but he makes like zero money, but he loves it.
It's so addicting.
Loves it.
Oh. And I love off-roading. I did 3,000 miles off-road in Baja, California last year in my side-by-side. I've been dirt off-roading since I was a kid. So so if I had $1 billion, I'd be racing trophy trucks too, 100%.
Is that your main thing, is just truck racing off-road, or do you do
Well, I used to ride dirt bikes and a lot, but Texas, there's no place to freaking ride. It's all private land here. So I have a side-by-side, and I truck it to California, and I go in Baja on these awesome tours. I took my 2 oldest sons last year, and we drove all the way from San Diego to Cabo over 8 days, 80% of it off-road, like Peninsula to the Sea of Cortez. It's so beautiful down there.
I'm gonna send you a text message later, and it's gonna be the video I took my my 11-year-old autocross racing.
Oh, nice.
And as we're going turn to turn, he like put the phone on selfie mode as we're going, and his face is like stretching this way and this way. It was so funny. And I did lunch with them. They did like a Thanksgiving lunch yesterday, so I went with all the kids, and I was showing all the kids at the table, and they're like, "Oh, Carson, you went racing. You're so cool." We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love motorsports. That's my favorite. Yeah.
Now, would you still be as cool to your kids if you didn't walk on fire?
Probably not.
Is that still like a main topic for them?
Okay, I've never actually gotten the opportunity to talk to someone that has walked on actual fire.
Yeah.
Like you walked on coals at some point, right?
Yeah.
Why did you do that? Are you crazy?
Well, everyone else was doing it. The Kool-Aid song. It's a good example of how powerful we are if we focus it. Basically, what's happening is the reason you don't get burned is because you're putting out more energy than the fire is during that moment. And you actually are like putting yourself in a peak physical state. You're looking up, which activates a certain part of your brain, and you're saying cool moss. Cool moss. So your brain's thinking you're stepping on this cool moss feeling. And literally I've walked across it 4 or 5, 6, 7 times, I forget, but like you don't feel anything.
Oh, I thought that was Spanish for like more cool, please.
More cool, please. No, it's part of the process they teach you. But if it's like really just super high energy, and then you just go poof, and then
Oh, we got to do that sometime.
There's some people though who aren't in state and they get really burnt really badly. Like there's a lot of people who get burnt.
What about people that have a lot of toe hair? Like that probably wouldn't work out very well.
Well, when you get to the other side, there's a person with a garden hose on a piece of sod to make sure there's no coals trapped in there. Because if you come out of peak state and you have a coal on your foot, then you'll burn.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
That sounds awful. Well, Jason, this has been an absolutely good, amazing, and great podcast. Everything I've expected, and thank you so much for doing this. And I love talking racing. I love talking tool. So I normally don't get to talk about these things. But with that, let's get into our favorite section of a podcast called the OT with Owen and Ted. You are in the OT with Owen and Ted, presented by Timber Creek Virtual.
At Timber Creek Virtual, we don't just keep your business running. We take it to the next level. Our virtual and executive assistants handle all the everyday tasks so you can focus on what really matters, growing your business. Need clarity on your financial performance? Our expert bookkeeping services keep everything organized so you always know where your business stands. With our seamless transaction coordination, you never have to worry about the details. Just close the deal. We've got you covered with cutting-edge digital marketing, proactive lead generation, and expert acquisition management. Plus, we handle the cold calling and messaging too. Let us handle the big C part so you can handle your business. Visit timbercreekvirtual.com/services and see how we can make your business soar.
Where we have the more or less the same questions we ask every guest each episode. And the first one we got for you is, you mentioned that you've got another book potentially in the hopper.
Yeah.
Do you have a title picked out for that bad boy yet, or are you going to see how it goes first?
It's something to do with alignment. It's in my head. The book is
the website hasn't been booked yet, so
it hasn't been booked yet. No, it may be alignment, the power of alignment. It's something to do with alignment. This is the book, yeah.
And the thought being on that, it's going to align your beliefs with the actions you want to take. Is that kind of the gist of it?
It's basically how you learn to live an intentionally created reality instead of living a reality in reaction to what you're seeing. That's what alignment is.
Okay, so we're on your very successful podcast. You can
with all of the affiliate dollars rolling in.
That's true. Yes, it's going to be awesome.
Tens of thousands. You can interview anyone in the world today, preferably live. Who is it? What's the one question you want to ask?
I would probably interview Maynard James Keenan because he just seems so interesting a person.
Did you listen to his Joe Rogan podcast? I think he's done two.
Yeah, no, the way he thinks is just, and I was actually listening to this podcast where he's talking about him running in high school. And when he was running cross country, he runs in a weird stride. And that weird stride is what creates their weird time signatures.
Really?
Yeah. I would ask him, like, do you get good tacos is your place in Phoenix? Because I love tacos.
You got to go to his orchard.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, it's not orchard. I'm sorry. It's vineyard. I apologize.
Yeah.
Orchard. Come on.
Orchard. I know.
Amateur hour. Okay. So we are at the end of the Drees. We're in your epilogue here because it's very sad. We're at your funeral.
Should be celebrating.
About ready to give your eulogy.
Okay.
Who's going to talk? What do you hope they were going to say about you?
It would probably be my boys, my 4 boys. And I'd love it if they said, we loved our dad. He gave it all he's got, and he never backed down, and he did the best he could.
Perfect.
Couldn't ask more.
Yep.
Okay. So being a mentor yourself and coach, what mentor has personally had the biggest impact on you in your life?
Tony Robbins, by far.
Have you ever met him?
No.
I gotta make that happen, man.
No, I had an opportunity once to meet him when the book Money, the Master of the Game came out. He was going to be in San Diego, and I would have had to fly to Southern California, but I had a workshop I had sold that I was going to. So, but I've never met him in person.
I meant to ask you earlier in the podcast, do business coaches still get business coaches?
Yeah. Well, most
do you have
I wouldn't hire a coach that doesn't have a coach.
Love that.
Interesting.
We talked to Pace Morby. Wasn't it Tony Robbins that he like booked out like a whole day with?
Yes, I that sounds right.
Yeah, he said that he just wanted to sit with him, kind of pick his brain, and
I'm sure that was cheap.
And he dropped the number. I think he said he paid like $25,000 or $50,000 for that day,
for the whole day.
Yeah, and
that's
there's
like amateur numbers. Got to pump those numbers.
But there was like 5 people in the room with him. Okay. So yeah.
Oh, okay. So kind of a group therapy session.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
No, it was Cardone.
Oh, Grant Cardone.
It was Grant Cardone. Yeah.
Cool. All right, Jason. What is the best way for our listeners to support you? Are you looking for more customers, or are you kind of like, I'm good?
We are looking for lots of customers right now. We're actually doing a crazy promotion right now, and I know this is going to be timeless here.
Yes.
But we're doing $200 off per month for your first 6 months.
Man.
Oh, man.
Let's trying to make it just like, because coaching right now will make it radically change your life. And anybody can afford $400 a month to get started.
Get ready for the REIA Radio tidal wave.
Yes, the real radio tidal wave. I'm ready for it. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Can you send me the link so we can put links to that in the notes also?
Yes.
And and then 60-minute coaching. It's going to be, you get it every week, and then at some point, if somebody buys into that, do they ever get to see your pretty face, or is it working with your coaches?
So 60-minute, those team contracts are with a coach. So it's 60 minutes per month, like 2 30-minute calls.
Yep.
Everybody who signs it gets access to Mindset Academy, and Mindset Academy is the group coaching program that I run. Mm-hmm. So there's 3 calls a month, 3 Zoom calls a month that you can jump on there, get trained from me directly. And you can also raise your hand to get coaching from me directly on those calls. So everybody who's in my coaching program gets access to Mindset Academy.
He's kind of like the coaching final boss.
He is the Tony Robbins.
No, he is the Jason Drees.
Yeah, I know. The better version of Tony Robbins.
That's right.
Yes. But with that, hey, Jason, thank you so much, man. My first communication ever with you was I literally posted about a tool show, and you commented on it. Had no idea who I was, and I'm like, oh man, I like screenshotted it and I sent it over. I'm like, dude,
he sent it to me. I'm like, stop.
I was so excited. Thanks for coming on the podcast. I'm a huge fan of yours, and I appreciate what you do. And I just hope that we have another opportunity to have you on, but also maybe run into a Bigger Pockets event or another meetup in the future. But if you ever are going to a tool show in the Midwest, please reach out to me. I'd love to know what it takes to occupy your time and have you come to talk to our local REIA group sometime too.
Yeah, let's take that offline. I'd love to get in front of audiences, and cool. And I've been a second guest on a second appearance on podcast multiple times.
I appreciate that. And with that, Owen Dashner, we see us out.
On behalf of Aiden Bear, REIA Radio, and Ted Kosh, I'm Owen Dashner, and you've been listening to Jason Off-Roading Tool Concerts and Coaching in the Multiverse. Drees. Signing off. Dude, that was great. Thank you again. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. You got any big plans for the weekend?
I'm going to see Creed tonight.
What?
Creed, yeah. Creed is playing. I picked my oldest son. We're going to see Creed. Yeah.
Are they still? I didn't even know they were still touring.
No, it's like a reunion tour. But I think Scott Knapp is like, so they hate him so much that they already decided they're canceling after the tour. But
I feel bad for Nickelback and Creed. I think I actually liked both of them back in the day.
Nickelback's a good show.
It is, and I like Creed.
Have you seen what Deadpool's talking about Nickelback?
Yes, I did. I did notice that.